Welcome back. You're still watching SA Today on SABC News Channel. Now, emotional and physical exhaustion is a state of, well, feeling worn out and drained, basically, as a result of accumulated stress. Emotional exhaustion is one of the signs of burnout. They say people experiencing exhaustion often feel like they have no power or control over what happens in life, while getting through the last weeks of a working year is usually challenging. I know for a fact that the pandemic has also intensified the state, leaving us feeling quite depleted, overwhelmed, and more likely to experience what they call burnout. Pharmacist Edwin Govender, a co-founder of the brain supplementary company Neurologica, joins us now for further insight on this. Edwin, welcome to SA Today. It's that time of the year, and I always say, when you think back of a long year, you always look forward to December. You always look forward to, at least you know you're going to get 2 weeks off there and there, to be with the family and reboost, re-energize, as it were. This year is one of those years where a lot of people have gone through the emotions, whether it's emotional, whether it's burnout. Tell us a bit more.
Good afternoon, Tabiso. Good afternoon to all the viewers, and thank you for having me, firstly. Tabiso, you're right. It's been an extremely stressful year. It's just been crazy. In fact, like on a global scale, it's probably one of the most stressful periods in the history that's been recorded. So, how that's contributed to our feelings of stress, that's an interesting one. Because we experience stress daily. It's normal, actually. On many occasions, stress actually helps us with, with productivity. But more than that, then it becomes a problem. And you see, Tabiso, you can stress a person out just by changing their everyday general routines. So when you take that concept and you think about the many unknowns that this year has thrown at us, the many unknowns of COVID, obviously, so much has changed in our lives. It's been massive. I mean, changes in the way we used to living. Most important one for me is, we're social beings. We kind of live in like packs, and we want to see our friends and our mates and our family, and that was taken away. Many challenges from job losses, people finding work. We forget about the man on the side of the street who doesn't actually have a job but looks for a job daily. But he was asked to stay at home. We're constantly on our guard about what might happen next. This actually resulted in like pushing people over the threshold, where many people actually needed, mental health treatment. It's been that bad. It's contributed in that kind of gravitas.
And most importantly as well, experiencing physical and emotional exhaustion, these are two different things. Stress and burnout. These are totally different things, but one could be sitting there and you could feeling all of them at the same time as well.
Absolutely. It's very important to, and I'm glad you brought that up, it's very important to understand the differences, because the way we approach either stress or burnout will be very different. So, continuous stress, as an example, may lead to burnout. But at the same time, burnout is much more than just heavy stress. So stress stems from too many pressures that demand too much on you, physically and mentally. Burnout is quite a serious state, actually, where there's a serious change in emotional and psychological state of a person. But often that term is used very loosely. Burnout is used very loosely. However, stressed people still imagine that if they can just get everything under control, they'll feel better. Being burnt out, however, means feeling empty, mentally exhausted, devoid of motivation. People experiencing burnout actually don't care. They don't see any hope. They don't see any positive change in the situations coming very soon. So it's a very different thing. I'll categorize that a little bit for you with some examples. So let's take a stressed individual. They have like a sense of over-engagement, involved in everything, whereas somebody who's burnt out will be disengaged, involved in nothing really. A stressed person might have overactive emotions, use foul language, be shouting, get excited, gets energy, his drive, is moving around. Whereas a burnt out person will, they don't actually care. There's no feelings. It doesn't bother them. Do what you want to do. It doesn't bother me. Carry on. Stress produces urgency and loss of energy and anxiety. And burnout will more lean towards hopelessness, loss of motivation, and can even lead to actually depression.
Yeah.
And the signs are quite clear. Massive frustration, not wanting to cope, interpersonal problems, job slipping, generally decreased dissatisfaction in anything, not taking care of yourself, all that is kind of like leads towards burnout.
Yeah, you make an interesting observation there, in particular with burnout, and hopefully our line holds. See that our internet line seems dropping now and then. But with regards to burnout, it comes to a point where somebody hits what we call, they just drop out of it. They literally hit a brick wall and then they're out. Nothing else, as you said, nothing matters. And that is when one would say hit rock bottom of all that stress and all the burnout and all that physical and emotional exhaustion. Sometimes they just drop out of it, and you're amazed what happened to somebody. They just lose it all.
Absolutely.
How does one cope? I mean, I know you co-founder of Neurologica. I see there are interesting things on your website that one could go into, take a quiz of sorts to try and ascertain where they are, whether they're exhausted or whether they are burnt out. Speak to us about what you do.
Well, firstly, Tabiso, it's an holistic kind of approach to all of this. And I don't think there's any quick fix. Like anything, there's always taking care and time. And that comes with consistency. We must remember that we need to firstly address any psychological and physical aspect in our lives. The first thing we need to do is get to the source. What are the stresses in your life? What's causing you to go down that route? What was the initial thing? We need to address those and kind of reduce those challenges on us. So, by speaking up as an example, by planning better, reducing, the effort by prioritizing or delegating work or setting boundaries with your time, etc. Those are some of the things that you need to consider. But in terms of like some health coping methods, one would want to start with trying to do something that really engages them, makes them happy, whether it's a hobby, reading something inspiring and journaling, and to try and nourish your inner world. And that's kind of difficult in the beginning, but that is part of the solution. It's important to guard your time, to set breaks, to use less device and technology, and to not let others dictate your time, because that's when it becomes a problem, when you can't take control of your life and your time. The general self-care things would be eating healthy, exercising, meditating, meeting people. And, we would advocate in all of that also to enhance your brain's functionality by supplementation. I think you spoke about this on a previous show as well. And, the fourth industrial revolution, it's been really, really exciting, and so much has happened, with AI and tech but all this content boom that's come out and all this whole digital revolution, it's overly exposed the brain, and the brain needs nourishment and protection. And you just can't get that from normal foods or functioning the way we normally do things. So what we do is we use supplements and nootropics. Nootropics could be vitamins, minerals, herbs, antioxidants that enhance the cognitive ability of the brain. And, and those are some of the things that just help us to cope. This year has been very, very strange. I mean, we started off the year in our company with products that were more for cognitive enhancement and thinking and memory and energy and focus. And as COVID hit, we saw a massive swing towards products requiring more calm, stress, sleep, taking control of anxiety. We've seen that switch massively. Yeah.
I mean, I see as well one of the products you speak about reclaiming your sleep, and sometimes, and I know you don't realize it when it hits you, is that actually you are stressed out. You are just about to hit that brick wall when you don't get enough sleep, or maybe sometimes you sleep too much, you oversleep, and people just think, no, I was tired. But those are all signs of being under some sort of duress, whether it's stress or something, or even worse.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to know that some people don't sleep, not because they were just chronic insomniacs. They're just not sleeping because their mind is just so active. And it's the ability to take the active mind and calm it down. We often say that the mind goes into a very beta active state. And yet we're trying to sleep. The mind's just constantly working. So how do we take it with using right supplementation and nootropics to move it from a beta state into an alpha and a delta state without making you drowsy with, conventional ways of approach? And so it's about getting the mind to calm before you go to sleep so that you actually wake up rejuvenated and revitalized. and being able to tackle the day again. But the main thing is, how do we get you to rest without inhibiting your cognitive ability?
Yeah. Edwin Govender, pharmacist and co-founder of the brain supplement company Neurologica. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Sometimes, Edwin, I know that this is how you probably get out of stress. Behind you, over the shoulder, golf bags. You go out and hit some balls, don't you?
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Absolutely.
Stay with us. After this break, we'll have some sports news for you. I think we have a golf story here too for you, Mr. Governor. Thank you indeed for joining us. Stay with us as well, our viewer. We'll take a quick break. Sports news coming up after this.